might be looking at. Now, Liverpool, loads to talk about Liverpool. They've been so busy in the transfer window. Luis Díaz, on his way out, what's the latest?
He is, and this is really interesting because over the course of the last few weeks, we've been briefed strongly that Luis Díaz is not for sale, but he is now expected to leave their pre-season tour in Tokyo right now and complete a move to Bayern Munich. The clubs have agreed a deal worth £65.5 million for a player who had 2 years left in his contract, 28 years of age. Liverpool they've made clear to Bayern Munich that he was not for sale this summer, but they've reluctantly accepted this offer because they feel they've received full market value. It's a deal that Luis Díaz and his representatives had pushed for. He spoke to the media openly a month ago and said that his agents are speaking to other clubs. Well, Bayern Munich, where he's going to be heading, so from the English champions to the German champions, it's a deal he wanted. I think Liverpool, because of the situation, they couldn't tie him down to a new contract. We understand this broke over the course of the last 24 hours or so. Liverpool had pushed to try and extend his contract beyond those 2 years, but he was in that situation whereby he'd have gone for free in 2 years' time. They wouldn't have got that fee, around £65 million next summer. So reluctantly, after having his best season in a Liverpool shirt, he's set to head to Bayern Munich.
That's huge money as well for Luis Díaz, 28-year-old. Now, knock-on effect to a certain player and a certain striker we've been talking about all transfer window, likely going to continue to talk about Alexander Isak. What's that mean for Liverpool's pursuit of the striker?
Well, a lot of people talk about how much money Liverpool have spent in this transfer window. It's nearly £300 million. But when you look at the amount that they have brought in player sales over the course of the last 2 summer transfer windows and in January, £190 million. So that man, Alexander Isak, perhaps this becomes more realistic, bringing in money from Luis Díaz, because we understand that whilst Hugo Ekitike has come in, there is still that massive interest in Alexander Isak, and you can understand why. As for Isak himself, he's told Newcastle he wants to explore his options in this transfer window. So we wait to see if that interest that Liverpool still have materialises in a bid, because we know they contacted Newcastle. Newcastle made clear not for sale. You've heard the figures, 120, 150 million pound. We wait to see what happens, especially if he makes clear he wants to leave Newcastle. At the same time, Newcastle clearly doing their due diligence and looking at options if Alexander Isak is to depart. One of those players, Benjamin Sesko, of course, Arsenal held an interest. Manchester United have an interest, but I don't think they can do a deal for Benjamin Sesko right now. And what we understand is that RB Leipzig are looking at that fee that Liverpool paid for Hugo Ekitike, which is worth up to £79 million. And they're going to use that as a benchmark in this transfer window if he's to leave, because they've told him you can depart. They're not playing in the Champions League next season, but clearly they want the fee for a player who's got an enormously high ceiling. And you can understand why most clubs in the Premier League, most clubs in Europe would want Benjamin Sesko because of the level that he can reach one day. But that looks like that's going to be the sort of price that Newcastle or other clubs may have to pay. They want to do a deal around £79 million. That's the benchmark they're looking at right now if Benjamin Sesko is to join a club this summer.
22 years old. I'm sure we'll hear more about him as well. Look, finally, interesting story emerging from Everton today. We know about Everton's financial struggles in the past, but they're having struggles in the market this summer.
Yeah, and really interesting to hear David Moyes be so open about this. He spoke to The Athletic saying really good players have turned down Everton. He also said he wants 10 signings in total this summer, which seems like a lot, but when you consider the number of players that departed in the summer with their contracts expiring, the likes of Dominic Calvert-Lewin, I think they were really pleased to sign a number of players on new terms for this season and beyond, the likes of Seamus Coleman, the likes of Idrissa Gueye as well. But so far, it's just Tierno Barry who signed it as a senior player, £27 million, as a player that will come in and start matches. Of course, they've signed Mark Travers as well from Bournemouth. Charlie Alcaraz has signed. That loan has become permanent now. But it's a really interesting situation for Everton, and David Moyes clearly very frustrated the fact that players that aren't wanting to join Everton, this new project there with David Moyes back at the helm, a brand new stadium. You think all the enthusiasm around the new season in this new stadium, which looks incredible. Well, the fact is they lost 3-0 to Bournemouth. They lost to Preston, I think, last week as well. And they're struggling to sign players. So worrying times with just a couple of weeks ago before the start of the season for